All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind. But we're going to have a show.
And good morning, everybody. Wow, we're back. We're back. I never thought of thank you because even the recorded smattering of applause brings me. Don't tell me that the music's too hot. I can see what you're doing. I can see. No, Tony, I can see he has a look. Dude, it's not too hot. It shouldn't be too hot, Tony. All right, let me just see. Make sure that. Are the settings the right settings, Tony? I don't know. Every day it's something. Every day. It sounds pretty good, I think. Anyway, it's a great thrill. Can I use that word to be back with you? Thank you, Kim, for filling in yesterday as the power people were changing a transformer in my neighborhood. It was a big, big deal.
Kim, how are you?
I will tell you, it didn't quite work out the way they had said it would work out. What a surprise that is. Yeah.
It never does.
I will give you more on that in a moment, but I have a big star waiting, so I can't hold Spencer. But I do. I want to follow up because it does affect our show for tomorrow. There will be a show tomorrow, but we're committed to a show every day between 10 and noon. And thank you all for being here early. A lot of people get into the chat early, which is really cool. And any picture of the nice new shiny transformer? Asked John. No, because there is no nice new shiny transformer. More on that in a moment. But I'll tell you who is nice, new, and shiny every time we talk to him. And it's his busiest season in a long time. I'm talking about the weather god, Spencer Christian, everybody. Come on, ABC 7.
There he is.
Yeah, he does.
He's so cute.
He is the cutest. Somebody said to me, gosh, Spencer Christian looks exactly the same as he did when he was doing Good Morning America. And I know it's terrific, pal. You look amazing. You really do.
Thank you. I don't know what to say. I try to take care of myself, try to eat well, exercise a little bit, and think youthful thoughts.
That's it. Think youthful thoughts. Well, that is, I love that. Well, I love that plan. I will tell you that I want to touch on a couple of quick things. Won't hold you long, but I will first start with the short-term forecast, and then I want to get to our reservoir levels and where we are in terms of drought. But first, if you would just give us a sense of, the road ahead in the next few days.
Okay, well, first I want to tell you, I can't remember the last time I was so excited about seeing sunshine.
It's true. In a drought-ravaged state, that's true, huh?
Oh, so we have another level 2 storm coming in tomorrow. It looks like, at the moment, it looks like the most intense part of the storm will be between about 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. So we're talking about pretty much an all-day storm. Excuse me. Then on Saturday, an even stronger storm, a level 3, on the exclusive ABC 7 storm impact scale.
Yeah.
That comes in on Saturday. It looks like the most intense part of that storm will be from 6 a.m. to about noon, which leads us into what it'll be like for the Niners game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
125. Even though we expect the heavy downpours and the strongest wind gusts to have tapered off by then, there still could be some showers during the game. But we don't expect the most furious part of the storm to be going on at that hour.
So the heaviest rain before the game actually starts. Okay.
From
now, you go ahead.
Yeah, from early morning, like around 6 a.m. till about noon. And then in the early afternoon, as the game's getting underway, the storm should be winding down.
As you look at longer range forecast, the next 10 days, let's say, Spencer, there are additional storms on tap?
There are. It looks like they'll be lighter. Now, this level 3 for Saturday kind of caught us by surprise a little bit. We were expecting Friday's storm to be more of a light storm, like a level 1, Saturday maybe a level 2, but now all of a sudden both have been energized. So level 2 followed by level 3, but then going into next week, we're looking at like a level 1 each day into about Thursday of next week.
So that's sort of would you call that kind of an unsettled pattern then, as opposed to an organized system?
That's what we call it. For more than One
Good.
weatherman
Thank
to
you.
another.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, once in a while I can pull out the. So I like to talk weatherman to weatherman, once in a while. Let's talk drought. Okay, I saw this posted by your colleague, Drew Tuma,
Yeah.
and let's take a look at the drought monitor graphic.
Yeah.
And this is something that we touched on. If you were with us a couple of days ago, we were talking about the fact that the terms for the drought are, and I'll get to the good news, but the terms of the drought are confusing, okay? They remind me of the COVID terms because at the beginning of COVID, remember they had the color coding?
Yeah.
At the beginning of COVID, red wasn't the worst. And I thought, why isn't red the worst? Red is what we all associate with it being the worst. It's in the red zone. No, purple, I think, was the worst when we started with COVID. Anyway, Sure enough, here, red isn't the worst either. And the terminology is insanely confusing. So severe, if you look up the drought monitor on your screen, it goes dry, moderate, severe, extreme, exceptional. So severe isn't the worst. It's actually two from the worst.
Right. It's right there in the middle.
Extreme isn't the worst. It's crazy. Anyway, but okay. Now to the specifics. All right, but it is what it is. So as we look at this, I guess much of this is all of California. Those of you who are listening to a podcast, we will just mention that most of California is in the moderate to severe category. And I'll remind you that severe is two off of the worst, which is exceptional. Right. If you look at the Bay Area, Tony, can you go to the next one? And then I'll let Spencer speak. The Bay Area actually looking much better. Look at that, Spencer. It's essentially moderate. Yeah.
Looking so much better. So, Mark, you may recall that last fall, going into the rainy season, which begins October 1st, excuse me, the Bay Area was in either severe or extreme drought. And we had virtually to our east, virtually all of the San Joaquin Valley was in exceptional drought. That was the worst part of the state for drought rankings. And now the Bay Area is in moderate zone, which is really good. And much of California is now only in severe. So we've had quite a significant improvement from these recent rains.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary thing because you always look at these storms and we always think, is this the drought buster? Is this the drought buster? And it's very hard to get a drought buster storm for an 8-year drought. I mean, it took a long time to get here type thing. Yeah. And they are not saying, I guess, Spencer, I mean, those who are hydrologists and check on snowpack and this sort of thing, they're not saying we're out of it at all. But they're saying that these are huge difference makers, these storms that have moved through.
That's right. And this is where we stand right now, of course. And now if we continue to get some occasional rains or heavy rains, of course, we'll remain in this really good ranking on the drought monitor. But, if we get a couple of dry months, all of a sudden, as we did at one point last winter, we could slip right back into some of these more concerning categories.
Yeah, I mean, Spencer's so right to mention this, that last year we had this, again, historic, record-setting December, and then nothing for January and February. And March, which is, the first part of March, we typically get some pretty good rains, potentially. But these are our wet months, January and February, so, so far so good. All right, pal, you're the best to, always answer the bat beam for us, man. We nothing but love, so really appreciate it.
Right. Kim?
I love you. I didn't get to ask you about Monterey. I'll ask about it next time.
Okay.
Oh, I want to hear more. All right. But you mean Monterey weather-wise, or you mean Monterey?
What are you thinking about?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what you. It sounded like you guys were planning a weekend together. I don't know what you're saying.
Awesome. Wine tasting in Monterey County.
Right.
Let's go.
Let's tell. Well, your Monterey actually has their flooding concerns in Monterey County. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, because there was a story. Here we're going for it.
Go
there's
ahead.
a story that the Monterey Peninsula may become its own island.
No, I saw that.
Because the Salinas River is rising, and it can block drivers on Highway 68 and Highway 1. National Weather Service says it could reach a flood stage by this afternoon. So that's what I wanted to check in with Spencer about.
Yeah. And I didn't know about that until I talked to Kim this morning. And so, if that were to happen, I don't know how long it would take for those waters to recede and for, people to be able to get in and out again. But it looks pretty bad, though. And if they're talking about, I mean, it sounds almost like a joke, but obviously it's a serious matter. If they're talking about Monterey becoming an island for a while because of the flooding, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's impassable. So it essentially is. It's isolated.
On a lighter note, Kim and I will now have to find another rendezvous point because...
You know where else we're not going? We're not going to Wilton because they had a tornado, a level 1 tornado yesterday.
Whoa.
Wow.
Apparently it touched down for a half a mile, took down a bunch of trees. Wilton is near Stockton, I believe.
Wow.
So that's exciting.
Yeah, that is.
It was great. I loved it.
Well, I think it was not great. It's not great. But I'm glad that there was no damage done as part from the trees, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, to life and property.
Your other guests, you've got other stuff to do.
Spencer, we love you. Talk to you soon. Spencer Christian, everybody. Yeah, come on, everyone.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah. Always good. Thank you for being here. Let me just tell you, I didn't want to leave Spencer waiting, so I didn't even get to what's coming up. But on Thursdays, we're trying to bring you a regular segment called Tech Thursdays. Jefferson Graham, the former longtime tech writer for USA Today, 30 years I think he wrote for USA Today on technology. He's going to join us. You know about his Photo Walk series, so he'll continue to give us tips of one sort or another. And he will join us bottom of the hour. Top of the next hour, right after Kim's news, David Katz joins us. He's the former assistant U.S. attorney, and he will have thoughts about the Biden document revelations. I have some thoughts on those as well. Mm-hmm. Mine may pertain to the political and also to the realities, and I'll give you a little bit on that in a bit. And also in the 11 to 11:30 hour, Ben Glebe joins us, the comedian and host. He's a political commentator on TYT as well. Ben is brilliantly funny. He has a new one-man show, a new special out. And he's promoting that. I think there's a premiere in Los Angeles tomorrow night. Anyway, Ben will get us all hooked up and we'll share some of Ben's thoughts. We'll do that also. And then finally, of course, on Thursdays, we check in with Belinda Waymouth on It's the Planet Stupid. And
it's action-packed today.
The controversy around gas stoves. Mm-hmm. This has become a huge, huge controversy as the pollutants and the carcinogens that are emitted from gas stoves have now been revealed. And so Belinda will speak to this a bit, so at least we can put it in a context. I get the context, which is, now the libs are going to take away our gas stoves. I get that context, okay. I get the talking points, but what are the realities? Belinda will share some of that with us. All right, so much to do.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Glad we got to the weather first. I will tell you something about the show that you need to know. Yesterday, they were to come to my neighborhood and replace the transformer that produces power for the entire neighborhood. And they said the power will be off at your home, which is where the studio is, right? And first I scrambled to try to get another studio and all this kind of thing, and it was just all really getting a little complicated. And Kim said, hey, don't worry about it. I'll do the show. And so Kim did a great job. And I know she did a great job because I watched a bunch of it, and I watched a bunch of it. You're saying probably, how do you watch it when the power's off at your house? Because they didn't turn the power off, and the show started, so I was able to watch some of it. And then a guy comes to the house. He's the same guy who came to the house the first time, exact same guy. And he said, listen, I said, hey, don't have to tell me. We're all set. We're ready. We're in our refrigerators. We're not this. I understand the power's going to be off today. He said, no. I'm here to tell you that the power's not going to be off today. And I said, what? Yes, that's exactly what I said. I said, I've made a lot of plans for the power to be off today. He said, yes, well, the power was going to be off today. He said, but with all the rains we can't do the transformer work. Everything's too wet.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to do the transformer work, and the power will be off on Friday.
What?
What?
That's exactly what I said. So now there'll be no power tomorrow. I said, wait a minute.
Guess I'm filling in on Friday.
Do the words Friday Fabulous Florida mean anything to you, sir? I mean, I am so bummed, but then I realized, well, we have Michael Snyder tomorrow with movies. We have Jim Avila and Michael Shore. They'll both be here.
Yeah.
We'll have Friday Fabulous Florida, which is already coming together and is really good, which is another reason I'm bummed. And we've got Kim, so we're going to be okay.
The show must go on, even if the star must step aside. It still happens.
Thank you very much. So
I say we do the show until your power just turns off, so you just disappear mid-show. Yeah. That'd be great.
We just know, like the minute he zaps out.
By the way, that's not such a bad idea. It's probably what we should have done. You know, I think that anyway. So
the whole time we can be like, soon the power's going to turn off, and then by the end of the show, it's like, nope, it didn't get turned off.
Yeah, I love.
Thanks, Tony.
I actually love that plan. I would take a meeting on that plan. So anyway, that's the latest. Kim will be called upon to jog into the game and host things for tomorrow. So we have much to do today. I want to get to the Biden document trove. A second Biden search has produced additional classified documents, and I'll get to all of that. I also have some senior citizen news. Shout out to my seniors in California. And I will share that with you as well. But right now, I want to get to some
The Mark Thompson Show.
I want to get to Mr. Moskowitz. What up, Steve Moskowitz?
Hi, Mark.
Steve?
I don't know if you go until they turn the power out. That's too reminiscent of what they did to you on Station X.
Oh yeah, there is that.
Yes, you're right.
No, I was calling you on Station X, and I was wondering why no one was answering the phone.
It was handled in the weirdest way. Steve is exactly right. I mean, literally, imagine this. You have a regular sponsor, Steve Moskowitz. I mean, he's buying all of the schedule of KGO. And you don't tell him that you're not going to have shows for the... I mean, in other words, they said, we're changing the format. There'll be no shows. There'll be no commercials. They do the thing they call it washing out the audience, where they just play music and they're trying to literally get rid of you if you're a KGO listener, because they're trying to get these new people who are on board for the sports station. And you don't tell a major sponsor, Steve Moskowitz, so he's literally calling the station. Remember, all those conversations were live. He's calling our show, and our show isn't on.
I mean, it's one thing to screw the worker, but screwing your sponsor, that's not done.
You want a relationship with your sponsor, you'd think.
That's
yeah,
right.
That was wild. I mean, I'd forgotten. That is just yet another. Yeah. I don't think it was handled so well. I don't know. But anyway, we're so glad that, we were able to reconnect here. And I know so many people who are starting businesses in the new year, man. I know so many people are trying to, if they're not literally starting them, they're looking at starting them. Side hustles of one sort or another. When you do that, what are the general tax signposts is the word I'm looking for, I guess, that you need to watch out for?
So there's all kinds of things. And the first one I start with is, do you owe any taxes from the past? Because if you do, you do not want the IRS going to your brand new customers and saying, don't pay you, pay them. That will ruin your business. Most of your customers will just leave you if they find that out. So first thing is, do you owe some taxes from the past? If you do, we need to make a deal and then go ahead with your business, but do not go ahead when you have that tax burden on you. And then we do all the normal business things. If we want to form an entity like a corporation, tax planning, a pension, accounting, HR, all kinds of things. And also, a reality check. Is this business something, do you stand a decent chance of making a profit? Because again, what you have to watch out for, even if you're the best apple pie maker in the world, can you make a profit selling apple pies where you're going to be? So there's all kinds of things that we do. But again, we start off with, hey, do you have any past tax? Because if you do, we need to make a deal there, or they can ruin your new business.
So you actually will help a client evaluate the landscape for that business, as well as whatever tax ramifications there might be.
We actually have a program we call Success Planning, where we go ahead and we meet with the client on a regular basis, as often as monthly, and go over all the things that he or she needs to know. And, that's where so many small businesses really foul up, because you work hard in a small business. You really do. And the owners basically work themselves to exhaustion, and they kind of forget about the business part of it. They're busy baking the apple pies, and then something bad happens to them to ruin all that work. We want to prevent something bad happening to you, and also make you more prosperous.
You can reach Steve the way you see it on the screen now, 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAXDEAL. I mean, I like that we talk about a number of things. You'll notice our conversations with Steve Moskowitz are sort of far-ranging. We don't just concentrate on ERC or getting your taxes in order. We'd like to punctuate these conversations with some things along the lines of what we just talked about, starting a new business, these sorts of the concerns, because these are all the services that Steve Moskowitz offers. 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAXDEAL. Call him, ask him, talk to him. You can talk to Steve and his people, and anywhere in the country that you are, Moskowitz can help you. 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAXDEAL. Also, MoskowitzLLP.com. That's the website, MoskowITZ, MoskowitzLLP.com. Thanks, Steve Moskowitz. Talk to you next hour.
Thanks, guys.
Steve Moskowitz, yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Thompson, party of four.
If you're just joining us, we will get to the breaking news, I suppose, the last day, which is that there is a second treasure trove of documents, classified documents that the lawyers for Joe Biden have uncovered. Not a good look. I mean, I will tell you that. Now, you can pretty much, and we'll talk to David Katz about this, the legal exposure and all the rest in the 11 o'clock hour, and you can pretty much draw the distinction on your own. I mean, first of all, I would say one thing before I draw the distinction, and that is we got to get better in this country of keeping track of documents. I mean, what the hell's going on? I mean, there is not. I'll put it this way: if these are the documents we know about, I'm guessing that other legislators, I'm talking about senators, Congress people, others, we've seen now vice presidents, presidents, there is likely classified document information that's been scattered all across God's green earth. You know what I mean? And,
who is having that conversation?
Well, not enough people are having that conversation, is what I would say. And
I understand these were found in his garage in Delaware.
Yeah.
What are they doing in there?
Well, that's the thing. And he was asked at a press conference, how come these are apparently found right next to your Corvette? And then Biden, instead of saying, I mean, look, this is tough. It's tough to be too critical of what he said, but because, I mean, you're on thin ice. That's why it's tough to be too critical. Like, what are you supposed to say? Well, they were on their way to be pointed. They shouldn't be there to begin with. But what do you say? So he said, well, I want to, let's be clear, the garage was under lock and key, or it was a locked garage, I think is what he said. Okay, still, so it would be, you don't let the former President Trump say, well, Mar-a-Lago was locked. Okay, okay, well, yeah, but let me draw the distinction. The former President Trump actively concealed the existence of the documents, skated on the subpoena, had to be, doesn't everybody leave their important documents next to their Corvette? Exactly. The reality is that there was an evasiveness about Trump that put him in a different category. And again, I've just told you, I'm not sanctioning the Biden thing. I think there's a problem here, okay? But I don't think they're in the same universe, because Trump, first of all, it's likely the number of documents that Trump took it far exceeds that which Biden took. But let's even put that aside. The evasiveness that the former President Trump had in terms of the way he handled these documents and handled the request for the return of the documents from the government, it puts it in a different universe. And there is right now, okay, this isn't what happened 6 months ago or a year ago. Right now, an effort on the part of Trump and his people to conceal more information from the government. And here's what I mean. There is an effort on the part of the government now to track down a bunch of these documents in Trump land, and Trump has assigned 2 private detectives to help them find these documents. The identities of those private detectives so that the government can talk to them saying, have you looked here? Have you looked there? Where are you looking? Essentially to ascertain, what the deal is with these private detectives. Ascertain to be a ding word. They are covering that up. They are legally pushing back on the government, trying to prevent the U.S. government from finding out the names of the private detectives that are actually involved in uncovering these documents. So you see in the obstruction, and, there is obstruction being alleged in the Trump case. There is potential mutilation or destruction of U.S. government documents that's being alleged in the Trump case. It's in a different category. That said, this Biden thing ain't cool, and it's going to blow back on him politically, and it ain't cool, period. I mean, documents are taken typically for, and this is why I wasn't surprised to see them in the office when they were first revealed, that Biden had these in his office, for memoirs and for records associated with that sort of thing. But the idea, and apparently in the first group, they were mostly, I think, 99% personal. They all related to, the funeral plans for his son, this kind of thing. But this second batch, we don't know. We're going to find out more, and it's at minimum a bad look. And look, it's hard to finger wag at the last guy. Now, the last guy, to me, look, he tried to engineer a coup against the U.S. government. So it's hard for me to be too sympathetic. But I try to be as reasonable as I can and as neutral as I can in evaluating these things.
Yeah.
But, of the things that Trump ran afoul of, documents was maybe down on the list as he planned a literal coup to remain in power. So, I mean, that's the difference.
Well, and also, when these documents were discovered, didn't Biden's lawyers come forward and say, we found these, here you go? Right.
That's the other thing. They identified them. They came forward, which is different than the Trump case. But again, I would say, and this has been, I think someone just said this in the chat. Let me just see if I can find it. Give this person credit for what I think is let's see. Well, this is more or less what Williams says, why aren't classified documents handled like registered letters and tracked individually so we always know who has them and their location? This is funny. David Evans says, Biden documents were intel about the War of 1812. Very well played. Very well played. You see, because Biden's old, that's it. But here it is. Debbie says, doesn't it beg the question of how we classify docs and how we monitor them? Yeah. This is the point I started with, which is we got to be better about how we track this stuff. Are you kidding me? I mean, this is insane that you can discover these things after the fact and after years have passed, and, that you can get into a tug of war with a former president about getting these documents back, a legal tug of war, and these government resources and our money spent to raid Mar-a-Lago. It wasn't a raid so much, but, to send agents down there. It was I don't know. Yeah, we got to upgrade our documents game. One of the sad things about the U.S. is you realize we're not as super exceptional as we think we are in every area. And there is that myth of, American exceptionalism, and it extends to every part. Yeah.
We're not the best ever?
Exactly. Oh. Yeah. So anyway, all right. Kim's news. We have her news theme, which is being modified. Okay. But for now, it's big, brassy, and bold, kid. And then Tech Thursday with Jefferson Graham still to come. Smash the like button like a boss. Come on, throw me a thumbs up. It's free. I haven't even hit you for money at all yet. Feel good. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. I'm going to do something a little unorthodox and start with a non-news story just because it's fun. This is Becky. Becky wore her Mark merch to Disneyland. Look
Come
at that.
on, Becky. Looking good with the. Oh, that looks great.
Yeah, you can see the. Is it
A
Tomorrowland?
churro? What is she eating?
Back? Yeah, she must have churro. She
that's
said.
absolutely a churro.
Yeah. Here she is at Disneyland, and here they are at Small World.
I love this. Rocking the merch. Come on.
She said it was really rainy, that she needed a raincoat and rain boots, but her Mark beanie served her well.
Well, I don't mean to interrupt, but there it is. GetMarkMerch.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can grab it there. GetMarkMerch.com. Of course, the merch sales, any profits go into trying to support the show as we, scramble to support ourselves. So really fun merch, not just the beanies, all kinds of stuff there at GetMarkMerch.com. That's cool. Thank you for mentioning that, Kim.
I love it. And if you have a picture that you want to send, whether it is Mark merch or whether it is storm damage or whatever you think is applicable, you can email me at kimmcallister@gmail.com. 2 M's, 2 C's, 2 L's. Let's get right to the news.
I'll ding applicable. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. I'll take applicable dings. This is the water. We're back to it with more storms. California getting a break today to dry out, but then another storm drenching most of the state this weekend. Spencer Christian with ABC7 says we get a level 2 storm moving in tomorrow. Then we got a level 3 storm moving in on Friday. These are the level rankings for the ABC7 exclusive storm forecast models. And then he said the Niners game could be some tapering end of rain for that day. And then level 1 storms, as far as the eye can see, into next week. 5 cities have already received half a year's worth of rain in the last 2 weeks, though. The National Weather Service Prediction Center tweeted that Oakland has received the most at 69%, followed by Santa Barbara and Stockton. San Francisco has seen 59%, and Sacramento at 50%. So things are getting better drought-wise, as Mark was mentioning. Crews, though, are refusing to give up on this little boy that was swept down a stream on the way to school by floodwaters. They've been searching for Kyle Doan since Monday when his mom's truck got stuck on the way to school. Bystanders were able to reach her. They couldn't save him. He was pulled right out of her arms and taken downstream. More than 100 National Guard members arrived yesterday to find him, and more troops are expected today. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, he says that the Congress has to investigate President Biden's storage of classified documents at his Delaware home and his former office. McCarthy told reporters the incident is another faux pas by the Biden administration. He questioned why the discovery of documents just before the midterm elections was kept secret. He said the Biden administration applies the law unequally based on political beliefs, referring to the FBI's so-called raid on former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate to retrieve classified materials there. Biden admitted a small number of documents were found in storage areas in his home, as well as a private office in Washington, D.C. He said his lawyers immediately notified the Department of Justice to take possession of those documents once that they were found.
The Washington radical left, crazy Democrats.
Yeah, right.
Is that what we are? Oh, yeah. Okay, got it.
Yeah, the politicization is already big. But it's not a good look, Joe. Let's be honest. It's not a good look.
It really isn't. So instead, he turns to talking about what is a good look, his economic plan, as inflation falls at a rate not seen since the start of the pandemic. President Biden saying inflation has fallen for the 6th month in a row. The consumer price index for December went down by 0.1%, which is exactly what economists had predicted. And then we'll get to this fine guy. This is George Santos. And it's interesting. He's a New York congressman. He says he'll step down if 142 people ask him to. Now, it's not
Thompson
clear.
party.
Yeah.
Thompson, party of four.
No, party of 142 is what you need.
Party of 142, and it is not clear exactly what that number signifies, but yeah, it comes after the Long Island Republicans demanded that he leave office yesterday. The lawmaker is under fire for lying about owning more than a dozen properties, attending higher education institutions, and holding positions at Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, among other things. So,
well, yeah, I mean, it's also
people,
the son of Holocaust survivors. He's right.
I mean, the list is seemingly endless, right?
Right.
So let's get those 142 people in line. Let's get it done. New research says COVID vaccines benefit unborn children. This according to researchers at the University of Kentucky. They co-authored the study which shows benefits to fetal health when a pregnant person is vaccinated against the virus. One of the findings was that breast milk had dramatic increase of antibodies in vaccinated mothers as well. Clean power, because, Belinda's coming on today. I thought we'll talk a little bit about this because the International Energy Agency says the world may be heading into a new age of clean technology manufacturing. The production of wind turbines, batteries for electric vehicles, and solar panels could be worth hundreds of billions of dollars annually by the end of the decade and create millions of jobs. The report estimates clean energy manufacturing could be worth about $650 billion a year by the year 2030. And from energy to money, some major cash up for grabs in the lotto this week. The first on Friday is the Mega Millions jackpot, worth now $1.35 billion. Saturday's Powerball is at $404 million. So,
wow. What do you think?
I think we should do a Mark Thompson pool.
It's funny. The chances of winning go down, right? Because more people are playing, but more people play because the number gets bigger.
Well, yeah. I maintain you can't win if you don't play.
Well, Albert's thing is Albert's deal is he doesn't play unless it's a B. Once it hits $1 billion, right, Albert?
Albert, thank you.
That's when you're a player.
Yeah, and if I see M's, it's not for me.
M's don't do it. M's don't move his meter. It's the B's. Yeah.
Albert, thank you.
Yeah, all right.
I get the feeling Tony's not a huge gambler.
Tony, do you play?
Thanks, Tony.
Sometimes. With the lottery, though, what I always do is I might get one because not to win the big jackpot, but when the lower jackpots get big enough, then
think you have a better chance.
Oh yeah, because you have a better chance.
But I've never won, so what do I know?
It's only one in 300 million as opposed to 1 in 600 million. Yeah,
exactly. There's better chance.
Thanks, Tony.
There's a chance.
All right, we'll wrap this up with the news sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. If you need help with your taxes, it's all about Steve Moskowitz at 888-TAX-DEAL or at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
Do you feel it? It's The Mark Thompson Show.
We don't want to make him wait any longer. He's so generous with his time, with his input on the show. He's kind of a, if the show had a boyfriend, I feel like that Jefferson Graham would be the boyfriend that the show has. You know, the guy who, brings you food when you're sick or, helps you on certain stuff like that you don't know because he knows that area. In this case, YouTube. He knows YouTube. So he says, hey, you should do this. He's helpful with our thumbnails and all the rest.
Yeah.
And now you'll notice during his segment, he has the QR code posted in the lower right, which is, he'll explain what that is. He's Jefferson Graham, everybody. He's here you're here to talk technology, but we like to plug your Photo Walk series, which we love so much, and your letter. I mean, the Substack, which you do, is a true gift, and it comes automatically once you subscribe. Now, is that what the QR code is related to?
The QR code is for the YouTube series for Photo Walks TV. All you got to do is take a picture. Just open up your camera. You don't even actually take the picture. Just hover it over there, and you can subscribe for free, as you can for Mark as well. You should. Anybody who's not subscribed to the Mark Thompson Show should definitely subscribe today because we want to get Mark to 10,000. I want to get to 9,000. I'm really close to 9,000. So if a bunch of people could subscribe today, it would just make me really happy.
All right. Well, there it is. The QR. Let me get the banner out of the way then so you can see the QR code. And we'll leave it there. and you can subscribe to Jeff's show.
Well, and it's nice to be your boyfriend.
I think we're a solid choice for a boyfriend. I'll be honest with you. You know, I don't know.
Last time I was your brother.
Oh, this is getting weird.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. It's I guess we're dating our brother now, which is sort of that is awkward.
How about we're just good pals?
All right, I'll take a meeting on that. Anyway, you are a good pal to the show, so tell us about what the. It's awkward.
So anyway, in
Chris
the news
says it's awkward. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
In the news today, there have been some rains in Southern California and Northern California, and I can't get the image out of my head of the guy in Monterey whose house the water pushed it into the river. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and we all need to think about backing up our photos. I'm sorry, but we have to think about stuff. Backing up all sorts of things. What are you going to run out the door with if you have a little problem? So backup is very important. A lot of people ignore it. I just want to go over some of the possibilities that will make it a lot easier. And I want to start at the possibility that you're probably going to, and I'm going to tell you not to do that, which is backing up on Apple's iCloud. This is a no-no, because if you delete a photo from your phone, and you will, because you'll get a nag message from Apple saying you're out of room. Well, that photo will be deleted from iCloud. It is a mirror of your phone. So do not use iCloud to back up.
Wow. Okay. That's unreal. I didn't know that. I thought that was a good thing, because that way if your phone is replaced, and when you upgrade your phone, all your photos repopulate because they're all there on iCloud. Isn't that a reason to use iCloud?
That's a reason to use it. But Mark, and Kim, have you ever gotten a note from Apple saying that you're dangerously out of storage and you better make room right now? Have you had that issue?
We get those emails constantly on every platform. Google sends us those backup things. You're out of space there. iCloud sends you that. We get it even on this platform, which we use, StreamYard. They send us that, and I pay. And I pay for the upgrade already, and it's not enough of an upgrade, I guess. So
okay. So here's the deal: if you pay for Google, Google is $10 a month, and you get a nag message and you delete stuff off your phone, it will not be deleted from Google Drive. If you get a nag message from Apple and you delete off your phone, it will be deleted. So Google Photos is a great place to go. Google Photos, Google Drive, $10 a month for 2 terabytes. The best deal in town for anybody who is an Amazon Prime subscriber is unlimited photo storage. So everybody should be doing the Amazon Photos app, if for no other reason that it's free.
What?
Oh, I didn't know this.
It's free.
I get this as an Amazon subscriber?
Yes, free unlimited photo storage. Download the Photos app, and it will upload every picture that you take on your phone to Amazon.
Now, let me just understand this. So now I'm upgrading my phone, so it doesn't have the photos because my iCloud, I have an iPhone, but you could play this game with the Google, same thing with an Android. So how do I repopulate the phone with those pictures I want, or continue access to the Amazon Drive and the Amazon cloud?
If you're starting from scratch here, download the Amazon Photos app, and there'll be a button in there saying, do you want to automatically upload everything to Amazon Prime? And you say yes, and then you'll just have your photo library in Amazon, or doubled in Amazon. Maybe you should do it now too, because you could just double everything that is on your iPhone, and it's just better protection for you.
Wow. This is really terrific. I did not know this, and I feel as though I've been sucked into this iCloud, Google Drive world where you just keep paying more for more storage and you just keep running out. And that's the trick. That's the game, isn't it? And it's $3.99. So you're thinking, well, $3.99 is not a big deal, whatever, right?
Yeah, well, it's $9.99, and it's not that big a deal. It's only $10. It's only $120 a year, and
that's
all of a sudden
$10
is $120. But here's the deal: the pictures are higher resolution. We're taking zillions and zillions of them. Storage is never going to be free. We're going to be paying for this stuff, and that's just the way it is. Let me give you some alternatives. Microsoft is not free. It's $7 a month for 1 terabyte. And similar, it's the OneDrive app. Backblaze, if you want to go that route, is you could that's $7 a month to back up everything on your computer and off your phones. And I use a service called SmugMug. They happen to be a sponsor of PhotoWalks, but
I've seen them. On PhotoWalks. Yeah, exactly where I've seen them. Yeah.
I happen to be a very happy paying customer as well. They have unlimited storage, period, unlimited, and it's $13 monthly, or it's $110 a year if you pay for the year in advance.
So for $110, it's as much as you want. If you're a photographer, if you have, there's video storage too up there or not?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And
wow, and it's unlimited. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, so they have an app. It's the same thing as what I was mentioning with Amazon, is every time you snap a photo, whoosh, goes right up. So that's really cool.
That's SmugMug. Hey, there's a question here in the chat. Kathy A.K. I think this is Kathy from Alaska. I don't know. Anyway, how private is the Google or Prime storage? Can Google access the photos in any way without your permission?
It's something to be concerned about. Not only that, but if you for any reason break the terms of service, they can deny you access to your photos. I mean, there was the guy whose kid had a groin issue, and the doctor said, take a picture of it and send it to me, and he sent it to them, and then he got denied service from Google.
Wow.
He lost access to the photos. So I would recommend never taking any nude pictures and putting them online. It does not pay.
Right, but I mean, in that case, it was a medical thing. I mean, so yeah.
Yeah. But if then your alternative is SmugMug is not going to be big tech. They're not going to be looking at your photos. Dropbox, I would be more comfortable with. Just everybody lives in Google land, so I talk about Google land. And Amazon is not as heavy-handed as Google and Facebook. I don't think Amazon is mining your photos. They do a lot of evil things, but I don't think they mine your photos to sell you ads, which is what Google does.
The people are chiming in and appreciative, essentially, of this information you have. So I'm paying for extra storage with Apple, says Jennifer. I have an iPhone 13. Maybe I should change to Amazon. I have Prime.
Just do both. You don't have to change. Just if you already have Prime, it's free.
That's terrific.
You know, Amazon Prime is free. Just have a double storage. But the main thing is have it stored somewhere. If you want to go out and buy some hard drives, that's fine. You can buy a 5 terabyte hard drive for about $100-$200 right now. Just have them stored somewhere. Put everything on the hard drive. Put it at your mom's house. Put it somewhere else. Just have storage.
Yeah. This is good stuff. Really good stuff. What else? Anything else in our last second or two? Okay, go ahead.
I have the guitar. And we did TV themes last time, and I want to play a few notes. I'm going to play a few notes of a few tunes and see how quickly people can pick up on it. So we'll start.
All right, so in the chat, you're just going to hear a few notes. All right, here we go.
Did you know that, Mark?
Yes, I do. I know that, but yeah, I know it. It's the theme from MASH, right? Wow.
Very good. Okay, how about this?
Wes, I think, was first on that. Leonard was pretty quick. Yeah, I know this. No, it's the Munsters theme, I think. Am I right? Do I win? Oh,
you win.
The Munsters! Come on. That's really
Friends
great.
for life.
I love it. Yeah. What do I get?
It's all there, black and white, clear as
I was
crystal.
looking for You Get Nothing, which is the typical...
you get nothing!
That's the one I was looking for, yeah.
Okay. You want one
that's
more?
Really cool.
You'll know
absolutely.
This on 4 notes. 4 notes, you'll know this.
I got it. It is is. Eric Kennedy has it, and it is the Addams family. Huge in Japan had it. Joe had it. Josh had it. Lori had it. Walnut Creek Adult Softball had it. SF Tesla had it. Jim had it. Wow. Very strong.
Okay.
That's
So
a great
this is a
game.
fun
It's
game.
very popular. What do you win? No, you get nothing. But there's pride.
You get nothing.
Pride associated. It's not always about what you get. It's about that you got it. So,
and I got 1 million of them. So next time we'll do some more.
I love it. And again, you can find in the QR code there, lower right, you can find the connection to the Photo Walks TV. And I recommend, it's a great series, but I recommend subscribing there. But you should also subscribe to Jefferson Graham's Substack, which is pretty terrific also. That's at jeffersongraham.substack.com. You subscribe and it automatically hits your inbox. A lot of great information there. So the Travel Photo YouTube series, the Substack subscription, do it all. Jeff, you're a great friend to the show, and I really am so appreciative. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jefferson Graham, everybody. Come on now.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Speaking of guitars, Jeff Beck passed away. Did you see that? A brilliant guitarist.
That hurts.
I mean, that's just unreal. Wasn't even 80 years old.
Was it viral meningitis he got or something like that?
Is that what it was?
I believe it was. He just got sick and real sick.
Yeah.
That's the report I saw yesterday.
It's weird. Albert put it here, and here he is, 78 years old. The 60s, think about that. He, became this guitarist in the 60s with replacing Eric Clapton and the Yardbirds, exactly.
Replaced Jimmy Page. It's just, yeah.
Wow. And he started his own group, the Jeff Beck Group.
Yeah.
And that's Rod Stewart and Ron Wood were part of that. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1992 as part of the Yardbirds and inducted again in 2009 as a solo artist. 8-time Grammy winner. He earned his first in 85 for Best Rock Instrumental Performance for Escape. He won 5 more in that category. He toured just last year with Johnny Depp. And Johnny Depp visited him in the hospital.
That's right.
Saw him right before he passed away. Heart Full of Soul was one of his well-regarded songs. I Ain't Superstitious, off of his debut solo album. That's back in the 60s. The Jeff Beck Group. Freeway Jam, Blow by Blow. In reaction to Beck's death, Rod Stewart said he was one of the few guitarists that when playing live would actually listen to me sing and respond. Jeff, you were the greatest, my man, Rod Stewart said. Really sad, yeah. He's from England. He's survived by his wife, Sandra, according to reps. So, it's, and Jefferson Graham says he's a huge Jeff Beck fan. I should have mentioned it to him, but no surprise. And Tony, a huge, if you're a music fan and you're a musician, perhaps on your own, I'm sure Jeff Beck is a massive, if not influence on you, a part of your, musical lexicon. Lexicon, I suppose, would be a ding word. I do want to mention, and I haven't mentioned it all hour, that his 7th wife, is that right? I must know if that's right. Albert, can you check that?
Yeah. Google it.
What's that?
I'll do some digging right now while you're talking.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. And by the way, if I can say, impressive. Yeah, I know. That's a lot of wives. I think in the wife sweepstakes, Larry King still beats him.
Yeah,
Didn't
Larry King remarrying one of the wives too?
Yes, a very strong move. The double back move.
Yeah,
the double back move is one of my favorites, where you divorce somebody, Then you double back realizing, oh my God, I really did love that person. They were right for me or whatever. And then you remarry them. Who else did that? Very big star did that. Former guest on my podcast did this. One of the biggest actors in history. And at one time in the 70s, this person who I'm thinking of, who doubled back and married again, the same person, this person was the biggest box office draw in the world. Can you think of who it was? I'm thinking of Elliot Gould was the name I'm looking for. Yes, everyone. Elliot Gould. He doubled back.
Elizabeth Taylor's in the chat.
Did she double back and remarry Richard Burton? Is that what that was?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Google it.
All right, so here's what we got to Google. She did. Okay, so that's right. So yes, so Elizabeth Taylor. Actually, we should accept that as the correct answer. But I was thinking of Elliot Gould. George Santos. Leonard Krause says, it was George Santos. He was married to Elizabeth Taylor. Oh, too good, too good. How many times? So Jeff Beck, first of all, these are the things that are hanging out on Google for us. How many times was Jeff Beck married?
I haven't found anything about 7 wives for him.
Okay.
Only one so far.
So that could be bad information in the chat. How dare you? And but the Larry King thing we know, and I believe Larry King was 8 or 9. I think it was 8. Larry King was married 8 times, double back for 1. I think that's my recollection. But anyway, Albert is going to
Google it.
Now I'll mention it. I haven't mentioned it all hour. This is a crowd-funded show. You're listening or you're watching a show that exists because of you. If you stop funding it, we stop doing it because there just is no way to keep doing it. So all of these people who come here, I think everybody's been reasonable about, the money they need and, what they want to get from the show. No one's coming in as a fat cat. I've taken no money. So the idea, because it's a startup, we're trying to get it going. That's the reason, it's not but we need you. And so I end this first hour by saying, if you haven't yet, you can please go to our Patreon or go to our PayPal, and you do it simply, themarkthompsonshow.com. Can you put that up there, somebody? themarkthompsonshow.com, just to make it easy for all the boys and girls who haven't. There it is. If you want to support the show, visit themarkthompsonshow.com and click contribute. You'll see a PayPal link and you'll see a Patreon link. Click one or the other and you can leave us a contribution, whatever you can do. Maybe it's a little contribution. Some people have really stepped up. And at the end of the show, we have their names and they're a little bit bigger than everybody else because they contributed more, but everybody contributes to the level they're comfortable into. I know sometimes money is tough. All the time money is tough, but we so appreciate that donation. So it's themarkthompsonshow.com, click contribute. And then on YouTube, as we exist on this platform, you can leave us super stickers and super chats, and you can do that right here under the video. There are places to contribute. At the bottom of the chat, you'll see super sticker, super chat. And if you're watching in replay, there's a heart with a $sign, and you can leave us money that way. All of the little amounts, every little bit, and of course the big amounts help to fuel the show and keep it going. So thank you very much. Well, thank you. I thought it was, I don't know if it was applause-worthy, but I thought it was that's a summary of where we are. Now, next hour, David Katz. We talk about the revelations associated with Joe Biden. And by the way, I think I saw in the chat, gotta be fair, you assigned a special prosecutor. There is a special prosecutor on the Biden thing. And I think he's a Trump-appointed special prosecutor. So we will talk to the former Assistant U.S. Attorney David Katz about the legal exposure that Biden faces, the legal exposure that Trump faces, the legal exposure that former presidents and former public officials and sitting presidents and sitting public officials face as this document stuff tends to float to the surface of media and awareness in the public. So there's a political aspect to that. There's a legal aspect to that. Also next hour, gas stoves. So there have been realities associated with gas stoves and revelations about the pollutants and the discharges. These are carcinogens. Some of them are really damaging. And so there are new regulations being offered to help mitigate those dangers in homes. Well, of course, that's being politicized. So that we talk about with Belinda in the next hour. Smash the like button like a boss. Hit that thumbs up as we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
This has been Friday Fabulous
stop,
Florida.
Stop. That's tomorrow, Friday Fabulous Florida. Let's try this again. I mean, Albert, it's not your fault.
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
You can tell me how the Google search is coming. Anything on the number of times Larry King's been married?
Yeah, Larry King is 7, but one of them was the run back. So technically 8, but on paper 7.
I see. 7 different women, but 8 different marriages.
That's correct.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, and that's very, very well done. So I would say, Albert.
Thank you.
Yes, very, very good. All right, smash the like button like a boss. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Mm-hmm. And here's Kim's big bright news theme. Oh, I love it. It's big. It's beautiful.
It might be a little delayed. She's having some internet issues right now.
Oh.
Kim's internet is dead, and she was trying to get off a
I see.
hotspot, and then it died, and she's trying to get back on now.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. So we had a really great first hour, but you'd say the wheels are coming off the wagon for the second hour.
It's off the cliff now.
I'm just saying. It's.
What can you tell us about the scene?
What can you tell us about the scene? What's that? Tony?
So just do you want me to flip the desk down?
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Tony. Do it live.
We'll do it live. We have to do it live. So I'll tell you.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
I do have Jeff Beck wife count is 2. Says, is it Salencal or? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and then here's another one. Jerry Lee Lewis 7, Richard Pryor 6 from Jennifer.
Wow, very strong. Very strong Google skills from our crew today. Yeah. Jerry Lee Lewis 7 times married. Richard Pryor 6 times married. Wow. It's just a real and Jerry Lee Lewis married his cousin, I think, and she was like 15.
Oh, it's a wild idea.
It's a
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
It did work for them. Anyway, now Kim is back. Kim, are you ready? You want to give us a little? I've got David Katz before too long, but I'd love to get some news. Actually, I think Katz is slightly delayed. I have Ben Glebe coming up. This is like landing planes at SFO. I I don't know how to do this.
We're having an FAA issue over here. There's a glitch in our system here on our show.
The FAA story, by the way, is a wild one. That there was a total shutdown. Isn't that what happened, Albert? I mean, they grounded all flights in America yesterday. Isn't that right?
Yeah. So there's no technical schedule for the airflow. So that grounded every even if you took off in your plane, you were required to go back to the airport and land to wait for the FAA. So it made things kind of dicey yesterday if you were flying.
Kind of.
Albert, thank you.
And they tell you that all the radar and all the, I guess, information that pilots are typically getting is no longer available to them. Isn't that what it was related to?
Yeah, exactly. So without that info and that data, it'd be like a train wreck up there.
Wow. Yeah, I saw that. Jerry Lee Lewis 7, Richard Pryor 6. Thank you. I'm going to. Well, I mean, I know it's also being politicized, but the reality is that it sounds to me like it was a systems error of some kind. Albert, I'm unclear as to how they can really address it. I mean, I get that, the Republicans are saying, well, it's Pete Buttigieg but the reality is, this isn't it's specific policy error. It wasn't because of some new policy that the Democrats put in or anything, was it?
No, it was just somebody at the FAA who clicked on a corrupted file. Then a system outage happened, and It was like one of those emails you shouldn't click on. That HR.
Oh, I
makes you
see.
take those.
I see.
HR makes you take these trainings to not click on those emails.
It was a damaged database file, the agency says. The FAA is continuing a thorough review to determine the root cause of the system outage. Our preliminary work has traced the outage to a damaged database file. So Albert is accurate in his...
Albert, thank you.
Yeah, very, very well done. But it has continued to affect flights today, I believe. Also, Albert, isn't that correct?
Yeah, when everything's delayed, everything gets pushed back. So with that in combination of flights that are already full, it's just a nightmare for sometimes flight cancellations. Your next flights aren't into a few days. So it's unfortunate, but it happens.
Boy, air travel is just, it's so great otherwise, though, isn't it? I mean, everything's just so smooth. So, something like this happens, it's no big deal because everything else is working out so well. I may bump Kim's news here a little bit, depending, and we'll see if we get David Katz. But in the meantime, I actually have a pretty important story or interesting story that affects seniors. And I like my older boys and girls, so
The Mark Thompson Show.
Let me jump on a story about cannabis, too, which is, as you know, we love our...
Where are my weed smokers
Well,
at?
it's not weed smoking per se, although it might be. A record number of California senior citizens are showing up for cannabis, let me finish, related issues. Yeah. Apparently, a record number of California senior citizens are showing up in the ER for cannabis-related issues. UC San Diego research finding that 366 Californians over the age of 65 visited the ER in 2005 for cannabis-related issues. But by 2019, the figure was up to 12,167.
What?
So the law was passed by the state way back in 96, essentially approving the use of medical marijuana. Second law was passed in 2003, clarifying the legislation. Recreational use of marijuana was approved by state voters in 2016. So all of a sudden, or if you want to look at it from 2005, to 2019, there was an insane spike in the number of ER visits from senior citizens related to cannabis stuff, okay? Cannabis-related visits. I'll remind you, just 65 visits to the ER in 2005, 12,167 by 2019.
Number.
Yeah.
I think Katz is ready, if you're ready to go to Katz.
Oh, David Katz is ready?
Yep, he's ready.
I just want to, I'll button this out then just to say that I do see a lot of older adults, says a doctor, who are overly confident with marijuana, saying they know how to handle it. Yet, as they've gotten older, their bodies are more sensitive, and the concentrations are very different from what they may have tried when they were younger. Remember when you were trying to score that weed and you didn't know how good it was? Now you got regulations, so you know, but the stuff is really much stronger. Researchers say more and more older adults are experimenting with cannabis to help alleviate chronic symptoms, which is likely partly responsible for the heightened ER visits. Yeah, so more people are in the cannabis game, if you want to think of it that way, and not everybody knows how to handle it, and it gets a little bit harder. And Kim had a great guest on yesterday, a cannabis advocate I was watching. And, I think cannabis should not, it should be legal. It should be up there with alcohol. I mean, it's something that is, I think, shouldn't be available to literally everyone. But you have to be careful but it shouldn't just be viewed as something that is medicinal. I think it can be viewed as something that's recreational. The same way, you don't have to bring in some medical card to a bar, right? You can just order a drink. And similarly, I think that's the way cannabis is going. But at the same time, it is a different kind of animal when it comes to actually controlling it. So that's the latest. ER visits are up. Now, we have David Katz ready?
He's ready.
All right, here we go. Let's...
The Mark Thompson Show.
Our time with him is limited because it took a little longer to get him on board, but we'll try to get into some stuff with David Katz, everybody, the former assistant U.S. attorney. David, good morning, and a lot to cover.
It's great. It's great to be with you. I was coming over the canyon, but we've had a lot of rain and mud, and I couldn't quite get to my video camera on time. I will by next week, but Tony came over and got it all working, and then I had the traffic over the canyon. But I'm here on the radio.
All right, well, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, thank you for stepping up, Tony, and David. As usual, I'd love for you to run where you want on this. And as I say, our time is limited, so please, wherever you want. But I do want to ask you about this document thing. And if you think, and the fact that, I'm seeing in the chat, they appointed a special prosecutor for Trump and the documents. Will there be a special prosecutor for Biden? I think there is going to be already. So I wonder if you can speak to that and then move on.
Well, there's a special prosecutor now named Robert Hur. And he's a former United States attorney. So this would be the person who has the top job in one of the 90 or so offices around the country. This would have been the job that my boss had above me when I was assistant United States attorney. Not the same individual, but this is the title of the person actually appointed by the president. So this fellow Hur was appointed by Trump, and he's now back at a private conservative law firm. And Merrick Garland has liked this idea of having Republican appointed, especially Trump appointed, former U.S. attorneys or sitting U.S. attorneys handle these investigations because he thinks that it gives it a very nonpartisan look. I don't know if he's trying to impress the Republicans in Congress, but nothing he can do, Mark, can impress this group because this group is out for, they're out for Biden. And no matter what happens, no matter how impartial or nonpartisan the special prosecutor is, it's not going to make any difference to them. But I think Garland thinks it'll make a difference to the general public, the court of public opinion. Let me just point out that Trump and Sessions were not nearly so punctilious, were they? They had Mueller, who was an establishment Republican, looking into Republicans. They didn't go and appoint a Democratic U.S. attorney, did they? To look into Trump and to look into all of that. They had a Republican do that, and then they had a Republican bar monkey with the report before the public saw it to give the impression, no collusion, no obstruction. You remember all of that. But anyway, we've gone a different direction now with Garland. So there are actually 3 Trump-appointed U.S. attorneys. There's the one in Delaware who's looking into the son, Hunter Biden, whether he committed any tax criminal violations, or whether Hunter Biden did anything, more nefarious than that. There's a U.S. attorney who's left over from the Trump administration. They had appointed this Chicago U.S. attorney who's left over from the Trump administration preliminarily to look into the so-called Biden confidential top secret papers. And now that they found a second and third tranche of papers in Washington, D.C., there's a full-blown special prosecutor. That's the Robert Hur fellow. So I hope that brings people up to speed. And of course, the story itself is quite different from the Trump Mar-a-Lago story, because while it's possible that both Vice President Biden then and President Trump, when he was leaving, it's possible that both of them, when they left office, took papers by accident. It's at least possible. We have real suspicions that Trump didn't do it accidentally, but quite on purpose. But even if they both took them accidentally, of course, Trump then obstructed the investigation that ensued. He had people, spokespersons who it appears misled the Department of Justice. He played games. Biden did not do any of that. These were Biden's private lawyers who were moving in office, and they found the first tranche, and then they said, oh, my goodness, if we found papers in this first tranche, we better go look at everything. Look in his old office, look in his garage, look everywhere. And that's when they found these other 2 papers. They revealed this to the public. This was not hidden. About all you could say is that it was found a week before the election. It would have been a huge late October, November surprise had it come out a few days before the election. But I don't think anyone has yet pinned misconduct on Biden or any of his lawyers for that. But watch, of course, the Republicans who now control the House will say that this was all a huge cover-up. This was to avoid a late October surprise. But the papers were first found, Mark, in about a week before the election. And of course, they were found by lawyers. It had to go through the Department of Justice lawyers. It had to go through the National Archives. So it's not that strange that it wasn't revealed just a few days later before the election. But it was found before the election and not revealed before the election. That is true.
Yeah, you explained, though, the devil is in the details there, and the details actually are virtuous or more virtuous and sort of defend the timing a little bit. I think it's a bad look, of course, as you've said, well, first of all, one thing you said, which is so clearly the case, is that I don't know why the Democrats do this, but they do this virtue signaling thing where they appoint, like, we'll appoint one of your people, a politically motivated prosecutor to handle this investigation, where the Democrats, where the Republicans, they do none of that, as you suggest. I mean, it's a huge distinction, and they get, the Democrats, no credit for doing it. So as you also suggest, like, well, who are you trying to prove what to, Merrick Garland? Garland's been... I think he's something of a disappointment. I just think everything's moved so slowly, and I know everybody's saying, well, it takes time to put a case together. Really, how much time does it take? I think they're slow walking this thing. But, again, I don't know. That's why I'm so glad to be talking to you. When I say this thing, I'm talking about charges against Trump, charges against his people. I mean, this is a guy who engineered a coup against the U.S., and I'm just astounded that it's taken so long to pin something on him from a legal standpoint.
Well, Mark, this does have a political impact because it's going to look to an awful lot of people who want it to look that way. A lot of Republicans, a lot of whataboutism people, they're going to say everybody does it. Everybody makes this mistake. One of the big arguments was they have these bright red markings on them, and they're in special envelopes, and they showed them. That was Exhibit A to the search of Mar-a-Lago, right? And the idea was that even someone who doesn't like to read like Trump, he would see the bright red markings and know they were classified. Well, presumably, Biden, leaving the vice presidency, would have seen those clear red markings. Now, my own thought about it right now, and I'm just speculating, is that staff pulled that thing together. There's a lot of people who helped with his move and so forth, and that Biden may really not have seen those things. I tend to believe that Trump cherry-picked those things. But one impact right off the bat is I thought that this case might be part of the January 6th insurrection case, and it would be another bunch of counts that he also did what he did to take the documents from the White House and other places in Washington to Mar-a-Lago. Now, I'm not so sure that those two would be charged together. I think it's just too likely that Trump will have the defense, no, they were boxed up. I never really saw them and went through them till I got to Mar-a-Lago. If that's true, there's maybe not venue in Washington, D.C., of what Trump took out of the White House. If he didn't know about it until Mar-a-Lago, no matter what he did, that he's going to be in the Southern District of Florida, presumably for venue, maybe back in front of his, hand-picked favorite U.S. district judge, the one we called Loose Cannon. But it's going to be before somebody in Southern Florida. It would be a whole different jury. It would be a whole different take on it. If you take that one out of the equation and you just have January 6th, I shouldn't say just, I've always thought that was a compelling case. But when I was on the last time, some people wrote on your online there, they said, ask Katz. At first, they wanted to play the Katz music. Remember, I used to have What's New Pussycat in the Year of the Cat? They wanted the cat music, and they wanted you to ask me, when are they going to indict Trump, for God's sake? I still think that they're going to. But if you were an odds maker, we don't like the people who gamble on sports, and we don't like the people who gamble on politics. But if you want to gamble on politics, it's less likely that there'll be a case brought against Trump because of the whataboutism. Everybody does it. Biden did this with some of his papers at 3 different places. And then you're back with January 6th, which, again, I think is a compelling case. And people are thinking maybe the Georgia case will go forward. If the Georgia case really does go forward and it ends up in anything other than acquittal, then I think the feds would back off. It shouldn't be that way. They have the right, under the way we've interpreted double jeopardy, to charge a person for very similar acts, both in state court and federal court. But if you can imagine this thing going first in Georgia and Trump or Trump's top minions not being convicted of anything, I think that would also put the kibosh. So politically, this has been good for Trump, and Trump has, in fact, been gloating on his little media thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I just think that...
I think I'm the most honest human being, perhaps, that God ever created.
Yeah, right. I get that he's.
There's never been anything like this.
I get that he can gloat. I think something you just said, and we've got to wrap up with David Katz, but such a brilliant legal take always. I think something you just said was interesting in particular, and it was that if anything in the Georgia case, if they actually bring charges, which they likely will, is your suggestion, ends in anything but acquittal, they will likely not bring charges at the federal level. That's what you just said. I want to make sure that I got that right.
Anything but conviction. In other words, if it's an acquittal, if it's a hung jury, if it's dismissed or something. And let me just say this on that point really quickly. And by the way, next week I'm feeling good about being on video as well as sound. But I do think it does present issues, no matter how strong the case is. And I think the case is very strong. And I certainly think that people like, from what I've heard of the evidence so far, Giuliani, Meadows ought to be charged down there. Find me 11,700 votes, meaning concoct them, and they have all of this evidence. It does present an issue with state and local prosecutors charging a president or ex-president. You think about it, some county down in Texas, right, charges Biden, charges someone like Obama. It does present a headache. It hasn't really been tested over the years. We haven't had a president or former president charged in local state court. We had Vice President Agnew charged, but that was in federal court, and he ended up pleading guilty in exchange for leaving office and not going to jail. It does present an issue, state and local prosecutors charging a sitting president or an ex-president. It just does. I think you have to deal with it if someone's guilty. If you shoot someone on Fifth Avenue, you ought to be charged by the local DA in New York because you just shot somebody on Fifth Avenue, whether you're Trump and President Trump or you're ex-President Trump. But it does present issues.
Okay, but David, last thing, I'm way over time here, but last thing, are you saying that if they get a conviction in Georgia, then they won't prosecute federally for anything? Coup?
If they convict Trump, I think it's unlikely that they would go there. They have a right to also then bring a federal charge. But I think that if anything happens but a conviction, if it's a hung jury, if it's very problematic, and of course the demonstrations down there would curl everybody's hair, even if you don't have any hair. What's going to happen and the impact on the country and the House Republicans being on the warpath. Having said that, I think it's a compelling case against Trump and his top lieutenants in state court in Georgia with Fani Willis, from what I've heard so far.
David, I wish we had more time. Let's talk next Thursday. Appreciate your takes also, and I thought that was a great one on the state case in Georgia, also the document stuff. David Katz, everybody. Thanks, David. Yeah, I know. It's pretty cool. I think I want to, if it's okay with you and I get the blessing, can I talk to Steve Moskowitz?
Do you feel it? It's the Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Let's get it together for Steve Moskowitz. And I got Ben Glebe waiting. I want to get to Ben as well. He's a big star. But Steve is the star of this show. He makes everything happen. But more than that, I think he's such a great stop for all of us planning ahead, starting new businesses, working side hustles, whatever it might be. We talked last hour about just that. We talked about planning a business in the new year. There are already so many challenges. You have to find the right business, what you do, what you like to do, where you think there might actually be some business offering that there'll be a public appetite for. So in addition to all of that, you have to kind of make sure that your business house is in order. Steve can help with all of that. Setting up a business. It's not just taxes, right, Steve?
Absolutely. And what about a lease? Well, should you sign a 2-year lease? And then if you're real successful, a landlord says, well, now your rent's triple. And I know you don't want to move because you're well established here. Or do you want to sign a 30-year lease? Says, oh my God, I have to be in this place for 30 years. So something that works much better is a short lease, say 2 years, with a string of options to renew for 2 years. You could have 10 of those. That would give you a lease for 22 years if you wanted to, but you haven't out any 2 years. There's all kinds of things that you can do. And, I don't know how to make apple pies. I wouldn't tell an apple pie guy how to do it. But here's the area that we work in. And the same way with what about your taxes? We take a look at that. Because before you go into a new business, we don't want the IRS coming in and bothering your customers or clients from the new business because of a problem you had when you're employed or in an old business. And there's so much that can be done. Basically, it's kind of like going for an examination with a physician. He could talk about all day about different diseases and cures and medicines, but there's no substitute for going into that doctor, let him or her examine you. And it's okay. In your case, you're fine, or you need this med and you'll be fine. There's just so much that can be done.
Well, in the apple pie case that you oftentimes will point to, you think small initially, and this happens all. You can see big businesses, they go on Shark Tank, or whatever, but they've started with the apple pie thing out of their garage, and they start selling the apple pies.
Mark, I started doing tax returns in New York, where I go to people's apartments, sit at their kitchen table, literally with a physical pencil and a physical piece of paper, and do their tax returns. That's how I started out.
And if you had only done a couple of those, that's something that it's kind of a side hustle thing. But as it grows, before you know it, it's coming into your account, and you're now commingling monies that you're making with your side hustle, with your main job. Right, Steve? All of a sudden, the tax implications become sort of complicated and not so cool.
And you can do all types of benefits, like establish a pension and pay less taxes and put money away for your future. All kinds of things you can do.
I love that's the great thing. And the last thing with Steve is that there are things that the government offers you. There are opportunities that you can get. And it's not just about filing the right taxes and paying enough. It's about what the government can give you and benefits that accrue to you. But it has to be set up the right way. 888-TAX-DEAL. Steve is so terrific, and you should just call. Ask him. Say, hey, I'm talking about setting this up. Should I do this? Should I do that? Am I an S Corp? Am I a C Corp? We touched on that a few days ago. Steve is a great resource in setting up this business, and Steve has people with him, all of whom can handle stuff all across the country. So wherever you're watching us, wherever you're listening, check that out. 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAXDEAL. You can also find him online, MoskowitzLLP.com. Steve Moskowitz. Steve, great talking to you, and thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Mark.
All right, Steve Moskowitz, everybody. Right on. Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Here's a guy who is funny, smart, incisive political commentator, in addition to his first, I would say, love. Where he was really born almost on stage. I think when I see Ben Glebe on stage, I think, wow, this guy, he takes the stage and he's comfortable. He's Ben Glebe, everybody. What's up, Ben Glebe from TYT now? You've got a regular show on TYT.
This is true, Mark. It's great to see you. I am comfortable on stage. This is the first time in my career that I came on after a tax attorney. What's next? Is there an estate planner? Can we get a patent lawyer in real quick?
Yeah. Well, you mock it, but Steve happens to be very popular with my audience, sir. And
I'm sure he's very, very popular. It just reminds me of the time when I was voicing Sloth in the Ice Age movie, and I went and did a show in Seattle promoting my stand-up gigs, and I was the second guest after an actual sloth. I'm sure tax attorney is very important.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, in the entertainment echelon, this is the first.
Yes, I see. Well, that's good. Well, it's good to have first, and we're kind of honored that we could be part of it. Now, I want people to see a little bit of your one-man show, your special, which is premiering. This is premiere week. That's why Ben is on. And so, Tony, you've got it ready to go? Just a little taste of Ben Glebe?
We all grew up believing men love action movies and women love romantic comedies. I don't find that to be true. My favorite movie is When Harry Met Sally. And every woman I talk to, she's like, I just binge watched 12 serial killer documentaries on Netflix. How do you sleep? I watch The Good Place before bed. I sleep like a princess.
Cool. The full special,
yes.
The Ben Glebe special, it is premiering. Actually, the LA premiere of the special is tomorrow. The Mad King is what the special is called, as you probably saw. In fact, Tony, you have the poster. Ben's got a cool poster. There it is.
There it is.
So what do you? Yeah, go ahead. If you first, and then I'm going to ask you a little bit more. But I mean, you're doing so much. But when you're putting a special like this together, this is like it's a ride. You have to give people a ride through. What is it? How long is this? An hour? Is it an hour long special?
1 hour 7. I wanted to burn all of my current material to make it harder on myself to play clubs moving forward, and I wanted to burn everything I had. But it was just a cohesive hour that I felt was my current take on the world, and specials don't come by often. This is my second. My first was on Showtime. It's now available on Amazon Prime and YouTube, called Neurotic Gangster. And this one will also be dropped by Helium Comedy Studios. It's actually live right now. You can watch it right now. We're just premiering it live in person in LA tomorrow night. But it's called The Mad King, also on YouTube. And it's the best thing I've ever done. And I'm really proud of it. And it's just my take on the world and my life and our society that is quickly crumbling, and trying to find some laughter amidst the rubble.
Yeah, the special has been called by Nikki Glazer, who's also so funny. Bill Burr level good, without question. Carlin-esque, she said. And even Kelly Carlin, who's George Carlin's daughter, compares Ben Glebe to her dad. I mean, that's really high praise, pal.
That was the wildest. I was the wildest. She tweeted on the official George Carlin Twitter that people have to watch the special. It reminds her of her dad. I got tears in my eyes. And then I was doing Kelly's radio show on Sirius, the Kelly Carlin show. And she said this, she compared me to her dad like 3 times. She said, the way you approach a topic, the way you come into a topic, it really reminds me of my dad. And I got teary-eyed during the interview. I mean, I was also stoned, so that probably contributed to it. There was also that, but it was an incredible moment. Carlin's why I'm a comedian. He's the thing. He's the person I would say is my spirit animal when it comes to why I do it and how I like to do it, and commenting on the world, but also being silly at the same time. And so that was the highest honor I've ever received, was just those words.
As you look at the world, Ben Glebe, you have to both, and because you are a political commentator as well on TYT.
Yep.
You have to both see the serious, and you have to have analysis, and you have to sort of have a perspective, I guess I would say, that's serious on one hand, and yet you also, with your comedian hat, I guess it's just the way you look at the world, you see the funny in this or the absurdity in some of this?
100%. You have to. I mean, I don't think I would be able to do it. I don't think I'd be able to be a political commentator if I couldn't also be funny with it. And that's part of why I love being on TYT as well, because as Cenk put it to me recently, you can be funny whenever you want, but there's no pressure to be. So I'm serious on there obviously a lot of the time, because not every story has a funny angle, but whenever I have a twist to it, I'm free to do that. And there's not a news network often that lets you do that. And it's so smart that TYT is cool with that, because oftentimes comedy is how you cut to the real core of an issue. And it also helps people digest it and helps them receive the world in a way that is a little bit easier to swallow sometimes. And so I think that is brilliant, and very confident of the network as well to do that and trust their audience that they would know the difference.
Well, you can find Ben on Rebel headquarters on TYT, and I think I'm doing TYT today also. So wild. So I don't know if you're
you
on
and I
today,
do
but-
it together sometimes even.
Yeah, I know, it's great.
Incredible.
It really, and it was we never knew it. Like Ben and I know each other, but we didn't. We don't talk enough till we go. Oh, I'm doing this today. I'm doing that today. Hey, me too. So it was kind of a fun. I remember.
We hang out. It's beautiful. We have these little online dalliances.
It is true. So tonight in Silver Lake, if you're in the Los Angeles area, Ben Glebe doing a stand-up show. Great lineup. James Adomian, God, he's just so funny.
Brilliant.
Chris Porter, Christina Catherine Martinez, TYT's Francesca Fiorentini. A couple of surprises. That's at 9:30. Tickets are at benglebe.com. But the big thing is the special. Check it out. It's on YouTube right now.
Yes,
Ben
indeed.
Glebe, the Mad King.
And Christina is brilliant. She was a Vulture comic to watch. She's an art critic and a comedian. She's amazing. Francesca's amazing. Chris Porter almost won Last Comic Standing. It's a very stacked lineup. And I'm doing a bunch of my new material that I've been working on since the special. So it's a really fun night tonight. We have some tickets left.
And that's in Silver Lake in Los Angeles. And that's
near Hyperion.
Yeah, very, very cool. Okay, benglebe.com is where you can see the tickets. Glebe is Gleib.
That's correct. Also, now I'm feeling bad about my comments about the tax attorney. Maybe I will look him up. I could use a tax attorney.
Let me tell you
What does a
something.
tax attorney do that accountant doesn't do?
No. He is an accountant and a tax attorney. That's the thing that's so extraordinary. Steve Moskowitz, who is our sponsor, is the real deal, man. You should at least call him. He started as a CPA, then he became a tax lawyer. This is a while ago, and he's been in business over 30 years, so he's not like just some place that went up overnight, and he's absolutely terrific. And tell him that, hey, I came on the show after you just done your spot, and I'm curious about this because
I should tell him I crapped on him being ahead of me, and then I felt
wouldn't-
bad.
I wouldn't mention that.
I shouldn't mention that. Okay, I should not mention that. You're saying I should or should not mention it?
I would not. I would not mention it.
Okay.
But you'll feel it out. I think you guys will vibe very well together, actually. So, Ben, good luck with the special, Mad King, and good luck with everything. Again, it's benglebe.com for tickets for tonight's show down in Southern California, and it's so cool to have you on the show. I'd love to have you as a regular. We can see you in TYT as a regular, and maybe I'll see you over that way as well.
Thank you, Mark. I love it. I appreciate it. And just before I go, I just wanted your audience to know this stack right here, all classified documents.
I got Ben Glebe, everybody. Come on, Ben Glebe. Love it, love it, love it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Smash the like button like a boss, and it's so cool that
with your iron rod.
Yes, on Thursdays we bring in this person who takes us through the world of the planet and of environmental concerns and all the rest. Belinda Weymouth, everybody. Hi, Belinda. Belinda, can you hear us? No, yes, she's muted.
Belinda, I think your mic's muted.
Your mic is muted, but the anticipation of your arrival is something that we all have. If you could speak now, it would be a good time. All right. There we go. Oh, no, she doesn't sound good, Tony. Tony, can you triage this?
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah. Can you
Belinda, you're kind of roboting out.
Not good.
Yeah, you're roboting out, as Tony
Maybe
says.
just drop and come back,
All right,
close it and get the link again.
Let me go closer
Okay.
to another. So we've been having some
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
I know, exactly. Casey gets it. I mean, it's crazy. And by the way, where are those pictures, Tony?
And I also want to know what happened to the pictures I was supposed to see this week.
I mean,
Thanks, Tony.
do we have other pictures we're supposed to see in today's show, by the way? While Belinda finds a different place to connect with us? Or have I addressed all the pictures today? Anybody?
I think we did all the pictures.
Is this on?
Yeah.
And I also want to know what happened to the pictures I was supposed to see this week.
If when Belinda comes, let's see if is Belinda back, Albert, or she's good, or Belinda?
Belinda?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Better. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So Belinda Weymouth, everybody. All right. We'll deal with the pictures at the end of her segment. Belinda, what's the story with these gas stoves and these new restrictions? You libby libs are going to take my gas stove away? Is that what's happening?
Oh man, it is so crazy. I mean, these rabid right-wing, Republicans who just have to grab onto something, anything, because they're not actually, putting forward policy to help us. And they're, going nuts about the gas stove thing. So let me just walk you through what happened. So last month, the CPSC, so they're the Consumer Product Safety Commission, said, and I'm going to use quote marks, you can't see them because I can't use my hands because I'm not visual, but they were considering a ban on gas stoves. And that would just be, a new construction, not the gas stove you already had. So they were considering this ban, or they were also considering standards around the toxic fumes that come out of gas stoves. So as we know, a gas stove is using natural gas. That's methane. Methane is 24 times more powerful over its lifetime than carbon dioxide at heating up the atmosphere. And just so you know, everybody, your gas stove, even when you're not using it, when there's no flame, there is methane leaking into your house. When you are burning a gas burner, you are creating carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, both of which linked to cardiovascular and respiratory illnesses. You're also having formaldehyde and fine particulate matter leaking out into the house that you live in, and you breathe that air, and so do your children. And the children here is a really important part. So what then happened was, we're always, scientists are coming up with, more and more facts on indoor air pollution. And the EPA, has the Clean Air Act, which is really great. And it has these standards for outdoor, say, nitrogen dioxide, which you're creating with your gas stove. But they don't have any jurisdiction on indoor air pollution. And the nitrogen dioxide that your gas stove is creating is way, way, way in excess of what the EPA deems, okay for outdoor air pollution. So we're actually living with all this indoor air pollution. Cut to last week, this new research came out saying, hey, 13% of childhood, almost 12.7, I'm just rounding it up to 13% of childhood asthma is directly linked to gas stoves, and that is equivalent to children who end up with asthma because of the secondhand tobacco smoke they live around, which researchers found absolutely eye-popping. So then there were stories again at the beginning of the week about the CPSC, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, saying, hey, we really need to look at some sort of regulation on these gas stoves. They had to walk that back yesterday to say, we're not going to, to ban it or take your gas stoves away. We're not coming for them, because there was this, really kind of crazy reaction on the right that, Democrats are going to overregulate. Biden's going to be knocking on the door asking for your gas stove. And that's not what's happening. It's just there's all this awareness, and Biden, and the EPA and his administration do really want to deal with pollution because it's linked to so many diseases. I mean, they're saying that, toddlers have got, illnesses when they're young, just from what they're exposed to in utero by the mother being exposed to air pollution.
It's a fact. Gas stoves, when they click on, start spilling out pure natural gas, which is really just methane, is what Belinda's saying. It's the world's second most problematic greenhouse gas. Once the burner's on, there are other pollutants accumulating in your kitchen. Again, I'm essentially reiterating what Belinda's just told us, but I'm wanting to reiterate it because it's really quite important. The thing that's being eliminated here, or at least being stemmed, is really bad. It's these pollutants are accumulating in the kitchen: carbon monoxide, formaldehyde, and this nitrogen dioxide that Belinda talks about. And that causes all these cardiovascular problems and respiratory diseases, and there are carcinogens involved. So what they're talking about is not banning gas, okay? Everybody who's going, oh, never take my gas stove over my dead body, dude. I get it. I see you. Oh, everybody goes electric. Well, that's going to be on the grid. They're talking about other ways to manage those indoor pollutants, right, Belinda? Like there'll be regulations concerning the hoods, concerning the exhaust fans that are associated with kitchens. In other words, different ways in which those indoor pollutants, which we now know because science evolves every year and we know more, we now know cause cancer, cause the respiratory illnesses, cause cardiovascular diseases. We now know that those exhaust fans will be able to take this stuff and maybe eliminate it or reduce it from these indoor environments. Isn't that kind of what we're saying?
Well, yeah, those would be regulations to mitigate it. But, in the, we talked about this already on the show, in the Inflation Reduction Act, there are going to be all these rebates for people who change to heat pumps rather than using natural gas to heat their homes. And the federal government, the Biden administration is going to help you if you want to install solar. And at the end of this year, they're also going to give you an $842 rebate if you decide that you want to change out your gas stove for an induction stove. And, look, we don't like change as a species. We're really, we hate it. We're not into it, but we did move off coal, and we moved to electricity, and, that was good for our, health. And, what scientists and everyone says, and it's the same with, fossil fuels, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And so, we are going to, make these changes. And, the thing about gas stoves is what places that are dealing with this issue. I mean, look, the governor of New York wants, gas banned in all, new construction. But so far, it's kind of been city by city, like, Los Angeles, different cities in Santa Cruz here in California, New York, and it's about new construction, and it's happening slowly. It's not just, everybody has to get rid of the gas stove, and the fact that there will be, federal help to do it. But, what's really amazing to me, Mark, is that, this is about our kids. Our kids are being subjected to this barrage of toxic pollutants. And here we have a chance, and science is telling us, hey, we just discovered this thing. And, it's like what the tobacco industry did when it really became clear and they couldn't hide it anymore. They knew that it was giving people lung cancer, but they were, obfuscating, all that information, not letting it get out, still, creating advertisements where it made smoking look super glamorous and cool. I mean, the gas industry is using influencers and chefs, on TikTok to say how great cooking with gas is. And they've been, touting it as this amazing, cooking experience since the 30s. I just actually tweeted, and I, tweeted it to you too, Mark, about this young TikToker who uses induction stoves, which he learned about when he was in China. And he says, look, I love them, and they don't heat up the kitchen the way a gas stove does, as well as helping the environment. Look, 29% of greenhouse gases in the US come from buildings. Worldwide, it's 40%. We are going to deal with these things. And, it's, the science is, sort of is speaking volumes. And the thing about kids, I just have to say this, because the other night I watched 13 Lives, which is it's the Ron Howard movie about the soccer players who were trapped with their coach, the 13 people
It's brilliant.
who were trapped.
It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah. 13 Lives, it's called. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, 13 Lives. And you watch, and the thing that really I sat with afterwards, and it just, I couldn't get over it. This is 5,000 people from 17 different countries come together to save these boys and their coach. And what an incredible effort. And look at, humanity when we're on our best behavior and we come together for, a cause and to save lives. And here we have this thing to save lives that, but it's about, our stoves, and it's about changing our mindsets and how we do things. And, we have to make reality our friend. Climate change is here. We're heating up the atmosphere. We're heating up the ocean. We're making the planet unlivable. If you can take steps to ameliorate that, to mitigate that, why wouldn't you? And if you have a way to have less pollutants inside your own house, and you can afford it, or you can use the monies that the federal government will, provide for you to do it, why wouldn't you, is my question.
Yeah, it's as I was saying, as we learn more about those things that harm us and the ways they harm us, don't you want to eliminate those things or reduce those things in the environment? I thought smoking is a really good example that you gave. I see in the chat things like, hey, before you handle this stuff, why don't you do drug use and crime and mental illness and homelessness? And then, this is sort of an awkward time to bring this up, don't you think? No, I don't think. I think these are all things that happen in society, and you can handle all society's problems at one time. You want to wait until we solve homelessness before we eliminate the cancer-causing stuff in your house that's going to have you on chemo in 6 months? You want to wait, though, until we solve the homelessness thing? I get angry about this stuff because I think this is the crap where we kick the can down the road. These are all just excuses not to address these very serious things that are going on right in our house. Look, I love my gas stove, but I now see these revelations about what it's doing. The same thing you talked about, Belinda, with those non-stick, the Teflon type products where there's a non-stick products, and you find out that there's all of this stuff with the plastic stuff that is, we are being carpet bombed, our bodies are, with these carcinogens and things that are bad for us. All I'm trying to do is reduce the bombing a little bit and hoping for that. And so I think these conversations are very much appropriate, and especially when you point to the next generation as you have. I think it's all super important.
Yeah, I mean, when it's our kids and it's about asthma, I mean, it's just such, a no-brainer, I think, I mean, and I've said this before on the show, I have been wanting to change to an induction stove. I had a beautiful vintage gas stove. And when I got cancer, I was like, okay, that's it. That gas stove is going and we're getting an induction. And I love cooking on it. It's as responsive as gas. It's fantastic. And, I just, that was a thing that was within my power to eliminate. And I do get it. There are a lot of things right now that we're being bombarded with, and it can feel overwhelming. But what I would say is just, deal with the one thing at a time. And I love the person in the chat who said, we can chew gum and walk, rub our tummies, pat our heads. We can actually do all that stuff at the same time. But, choose what it is that is your issue and what you care about, what you've got control over. Take bite-sized bits and deal with the problems because, I mean, we have agency, in our lives. So, and over what issues we're going to respond to. I'm not saying everybody has to do this, but this, it's all information. And, the science is just overwhelming, right now. So,
well, the science is overwhelming about so many things that threaten our existence. And I just feel as though at some point, let's try to take some measures to address that science. But the politicization of this is, it's become it's a culture war issue. They're going to take away your stoves, all this sort of thing. And by the way, someone in the chat said, if you pay me to get a new stove, maybe I'll do it. Well, they will pay you to get a new stove. So you may want to look into that. In other words, that is part of the program. The government program will pay you close to $1,000 to get a new stove. So for me, and I have this problem in my house, so I got to wrap up too, but I like to try to include a little personal anecdote. Courtney likes to cook in the kitchen, and I always am opening the windows because we don't have very good ventilation in the kitchen. And I know, because I've read a bunch of this stuff about gas stoves and the methane and the formaldehyde and all the other stuff, I know what that stuff's doing. And I've got air filters on in the house, and trying to get that stuff out. But you need to at least ventilate your place. My listeners and viewers, in the short term, ventilate that kitchen because that stuff really will harm you and maybe kill you. Okay? So just leaving all the, the government stuff and the politics aside, I'd love for you all who are part of this show to at least be aware of that. Belinda, I got to move along. I'm sorry. I say I'm sorry. I think we've spent a good chunk of time on this, but I always feel like I could speak with you longer. You just have such great stuff. But you'll be with us next Thursday, right?
I think so. I might be in Death Valley, but I will let you know. I want to be.
Yeah.
I do.
There are no cell towers in Death Valley? Come on. Are you committed to this show or not? Let's get on it.
Why are you yelling?
My technology was letting me down today, and I was just upstairs, near a router, and had to come, sit on top of the one down here to make sure you could hear me.
Well, bring a router, bring a thing. We want to talk to you. Thank you for being with us. Belinda Weymouth, everybody. Love it.
Pleasure. Bye.
All right.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
We do, and we have a way of doing things around here. So, are we wrapping up? Oh, my God. I can't believe this. We are wrapping up, aren't we?
Yeah, that second hour was interesting.
I think it was interesting. I think there's a lot of good stuff here. I don't mind a little pushback in the chat, by the way. I don't think... here's one. I haven't read the whole thing, but I like to jump into the Marcia Lowry says, and good luck. $1,000 does not buy an induction stove. That include buying all new cookware, and then don't forget the electrician to put the circuit in for the stove.
Why are you yelling?
She's not wrong. I mean, it does cost. That's why I think they're focusing on new construction. That's why I also mentioned ventilation. I mentioned the venting and the fan and the exhaust fans and reshaping those. So she's not wrong, Marcia. I don't know about the numbers. You know, I think that there is. So if I threw $1,000 at you, Marcia Lowry, that's government money. You know, you're paying, it's our money when we say that they give it to you. It's our money. So you're getting $1,000 from the government, close to it, to do this new induction stove. You're saying you then wouldn't want to come up with the 300 or 500. What do you think the number would be? Is it another 1,000 to get the kitchen outfitted the way you want it? I don't know. I don't know what the number is. But I might take a meeting on that, you know. I think it's important. I don't know. The health of my family, my kids, that's important. Your health. And you see all of these different maladies showing up, right? Physical maladies, cardiovascular issues, cancers. It's because we're, as I say, we're swimming in this stuff every day. The toxins are everywhere. We talk about the plastics, et cetera. So, look, we try not to obsess about these things, but when you find a potential solution, it may cost some money to get to it. If you don't have that money, it puts you in a tougher spot. The government is offering you something. How big a stove do you need, et cetera? All we're doing is, I think, bringing light to an issue which has been completely politicized. It's become a cultural wedge issue. It's like gay rights now, taking your stove away. So all we're trying to do is bring some of those realities. And I know all you're saying is, hey, I can't afford to replace my stove. Okay, but you actually look at the numbers, you'd have to see. And there might be tax credits involved on top of that. So that's a Moskowitz question. Now, but thank you for the input. Look, I don't shy away ever, as you know, from any kind of criticism, any kind of input. So I appreciate that. All right, what are we doing now? Albert, please. Are we going to acknowledge some people who've supported us today?
Yeah, Andreas just came in just a minute ago.
Andreas! Come on, Andreas. First, I haven't even looked. Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Yes, that's right. And, wow, there it is. Happy day today, Andreas Musuras. $50. I'm not going to cry.
I'm not going to cry.
But I'm close. I'm close.
I'm not going to cry.
Andreas always puts me in cry territory, though, if I can just say.
I'm not going to cry.
Andreas, I also...
Thank you so much.
I give you the British thank you so much, Andreas. You are a patron of this show, and we love your support, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, my friend. You're so great to be here every day and to support us. Thank you. That's a Keep Mark Alive contribution, he says, too. My first day of dog walking this year with no rain. Let the sunshine in. Jim Slayton, big shout out.
Big shout out.
Jim Slayton, thank you for participating in the chat. Well, so you can walk the dogs and participate in the chat at the same time? That's impressive. Very, very impressive. Super sticker from Jay Carpenter. What up, Jay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jay, for $9.99 super sticker. I appreciate that so much. Ashton Hicks for $19.99.
Thank you.
Ashton, thank you so much. Super sticker for $20. Come on.
Thank you.
And Vilma for $9.99. What up, Vilma? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vilma. Love it. You're a regular on this show, a regular contributor and supporter, and thank you. Grady Kincaid, what up, Grady?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Grady, for $4.99. Appreciate that very much. Yeah, really cool. Big Dan Ashley. Shout out to Elwin,
Big
too.
shout out.
Elwin, still one of the coolest names. $4.99. Thank you for the support. Every little bit counts. I must tell you, and I've said it before, we are a crowd-funded show. Without your support, the little support, the big support, we go away. And we've tried desperately to stay here because we wanted to keep the crew together from KGO, and we wanted to honor your listenership and your loyalty by being here every day. William Lundgren, big shout out.
Big shout out.
For $20. Come on, William Lundgren. Thank you, William Lundgren. Another regular listener and supporter. Wow. And that's what it takes. It takes regular listeners and support. So thank you all. Really do appreciate it. And oh no, say it ain't so, Tony. Tony, this is outrageous.
Thanks, Tony.
It's done, isn't it? We're through. This is now I don't know if Nikki's show is going to happen because Kim was going to host it and I think her internet's down. I don't know what to do on that. But what I will say is that
as of right now, she says nothing yet.
Okay, nothing yet. All right.
So she's working on it.
Tomorrow, our power is down. I'm going to try to find an internet spot. They're going to take our power down tomorrow for the Transformers. If you missed that I explained at the beginning of the show. But we still have Jim Avila, Friday Fabulous Florida, Albert, Tony, Kim should be here. And as I say, I'll try to find a hot spot.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Shadow will be here, so we'll figure something out.
Bye-bye.
Definitely join us tomorrow. And until then, thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.